You and Alan K. Rohde will be focusing on women's performances in Noir in this edition of Noir City. What is your definition of the perfect femme fatale, and how does she put the darkness in the noir genre?
The woman you can't resist, although she's the last person on earth you need. That's my definition of the femme fatale, yes.
So you're uncharacteristically opening with a modern noir film from 1990, The Grifters, featuring Annette Bening and Angelica Houston. What did these two classical but modern actresses understand about their inner femme fatale within the context and the spirit of noir?
The case of Annette Bening, I know for a fact that Stephen Frears suggested to her when she said, I don't know if I understand this woman, I don't know exactly how to play it. He said, just go watch some Gloria Graham movies. Which is a strange thing, because I don't think directors generally do that. They don't tell an actor to look at another actor to base their performance on it. But Annette was very happy to share that, and you know, how coincidental, maybe not, that she would eventually end up playing Gloria Graham.
Yeah, isn't that wild?
Yeah, and you know, I've always thought that Angelica Houston was kind of channeling a little Barbara Stanwyck in The Grifters. You know, so I think they just understood very well, if not that they were basing it on a particular actor or actress, but they understood these women in crime thrillers, you know, have an allure and a kind of danger about them that certainly informed their performances.
So one of my favorite noir films unspools during the first weekend, Gun Crazy from 1950.
Yes.
How do you think that film influenced filmmakers going forward, with flashes of the French New Wave and the subsequent American New Wave, especially Arthur Penn's Bonnie and Clyde?
Completely. And so much so that I got an entire book out of it.
Oh, wow.
I don't know if you've ever seen my book, Gun Crazy, The Origin of American Outlaw Cinema. But,
yeah, I know of it. I haven't read it.
But that was what you just pointed out is exactly, you know, the story behind that. I mean, I get into the whole origins of it, the original short story that appeared in Saturday Evening Post, all of this stuff. But the crucial thing about that movie that is so remarkable to me is that it was a failure. It was the only movie that the King brothers made, the only one they ever made that lost money. And yet it ended up being cinematically the most influential film they ever did. And it's interesting that you pointed out its influence on the French New Wave. I mean, obviously when Godard made Breathless, he was imitating certain things in Gun Crazy, doing them kind of on the cheap, you know. And then when they were invited, when Truffaut and Godard came to America, and actually Benton and Newman pitched Truffaut specifically on directing Bonnie and Clyde. Right. And Truffaut said, you know, I think it's more in you know, Jean-Luc's wheelhouse here, and then they said, you guys need to do this like Gun Crazy. That it was so amazing to me that Benton and Newman did not even know about Gun Crazy until these French guys told them, this is what your film needs to be like. So I love all that stuff, you know, cross-cultural cinema stuff. But, you know, for me, Gun Crazy, I of course, it has a special place in my heart because I became very, very dear friends with Peggy Cummins. And I think she was always a bit pleased but surprised that film ended up being her legacy.
Well,
that's like the one she's most famous for.
Yeah. They had to think they were doing something different, though. I don't know. It always seems to be so modern to me, no matter what. I've seen it several times.
Yeah, I agree. And I think the reason they were able to do it is because it was the King brothers, and they operate more under the radar than other producers in Hollywood, right? Because they were poverty row guys, you know, and they were very resourceful in doing it on the cheap, and they lucked out because they got Joseph Lewis,
right,
who was coming off a very, less than amicable split from Columbia Pictures at that point. And Joe was the kind of guy who always thought he had a better way of doing something and wanted to prove it.
Huh.
And that's definitely what he was doing with Gun Crazy, So, yeah, I mean, it is a very influential film, and also in the way it just depicts the amorality of these characters with it's interesting because I really got into this in my book. The original script gave all kinds of motivations for why they were the way they were.
Uh-huh.
And the production code people kept insisting that they take those motivations out because it was going to give people a bad idea. Like Bart was an abused kid.
Right.
And they made them take all of that out. And so in the end, the production code did exactly the opposite of what they thought they were doing.
So
they took all their motivations away, so they just made them these kind of glamorous lovers on the run who kill people with no motivation whatsoever. And that in itself was like the most trend-setting thing, or I can't say it was a trend-setting thing. It was too far ahead of the curve,
cool.
But it was noticeable as being a landmark for that very reason, that there was no justification for what they did at all.
So finally, what is the difference between when you began your connection with noir in the 90s, or beforehand, obviously, but when you started writing about it, and the influence it has now as you meet with fans and showcase Noir City?
Wow. That is a really... that's a pretty astounding question. Here's the thing. When I started doing this, it just seemed like a fun book to write.
Sure.
It was Dark City, The Lost World of Film Noir. I had written a book about the history of adults-only movies,
huh.
Right? Because I knew I wanted to be a published author. But interestingly, the time to do that coincided with the rise of desktop publishing, right?
Yeah.
So, and I had a very artistic background, right? I'd gone to the San Francisco Art Institute. I knew how to design things, and I was a graphic artist as well as a writer. I sold my first book, Grindhouse, The Forbidden World of Adults-Only Cinema, because I convinced them I could design the book as well as write it. And I had amassed all of this wonderful treasure trove of dirty pictures and movie posters and stuff. But it was genuine sociology, right?
Right.
But then when that book came out and it was a marginal success, they said, what do you want to do for a follow-up? And I always loved the noir films, so I just said, yeah, I'll get a book out of this. But then what changed everything was when the American Cinematheque in Hollywood asked me to program a film festival based on that book. And that changed everything because it was really successful. Obviously, I didn't realize I was tapping into something, right? And then when I started programming the festival, I didn't realize how difficult it was going to be to find some of these movies. And so,
sure.
like in this festival, right, we're showing Alias Beale, we're showing Cry Danger, The Reckless Moment, The Prowler, Tension. These were all movies that I had never seen on a screen because they had kind of slipped through the cracks.
Right.
And so that was the turning point. When all of a sudden, because of these festivals, I said, well, why can't we show this movie? Then I got a crash course in how long they'll last, how they have to be preserved, the ownership of them, the rights that are attendant on all this stuff.
Yep.
And that just, let's face it, Pat, I thought I was a writer. That's what I did for a living. I was a writer.
Right.
But then all of a sudden, when I got into this film festival thing, all of a sudden I'm a film preservationist and I'm working to restore films. And then I started the foundation, and that changed everything. And quite honestly, part of the reason I got the gig with Turner Classic Movies is because the work I had done, because I had been with them since 2017 or something, right? It's like 8 years now.
Wow.
But I have so much credibility because of the fact that I do restore and preserve films and things, and as I've said many a time, it's not just preserving the film. You have to preserve the audience for the film, right? So that's the thing that I've been very successful at, I think, is, movies are supposed to be dying. And yet, the music box will be full.
Yeah.
To watch these old films. I can't wait to see how many people come out on Sunday afternoon to see My True Story, a film that nobody has heard of. I guarantee you nobody has seen. But we found this thing and we dug it out, and it's like a pretty good print. It's the only movie that Mickey Rooney directed.
Wow.
And it, I'm not going to say it's a hardcore noir, and I'm certainly not going to sell it as some kind of, undiscovered classic. But it's pretty fascinating, and nobody has seen that. So this is what I do to kind of keep the whole thing going.
This is Patrick McDonald for HollywoodChicago.com. Copyright 2025.